Varicella by Adam Caudry. Let's start a monochrome game. You were Primo Varicella, palace minister at the Palazzo del Piemonte. This title is unlikely to impress anyone. Piedmont is the laughingstock of the Carolinian League, and the palace ministry has devolved into little more than a glorified, not even especially glorified, butlership. Your duties include organizing banquets, overseeing the servants, and greeting visitors. It is safe to assume that the war minister and the coffers minister lose little sleep over your presence in the king's cabinet. But Charles Martel was a palace minister, and he turned back the Moors at Tours these many years ago. His son Pepin was a palace minister, and he became king of the Franks. It is not unprecedented for palace ministers to make something of themselves. One might even say it is a tradition. All you need is an opportunity. And that opportunity is now. King Charles was not an old king. Indeed, he had a good 40 years left in him, perhaps even 50. But an assassin's bullet or a well-placed ice pick can steal 50 years in less time than it takes to say the words. And a sudden illness, an illness such as the one King Charles contracted 2 days ago? Perhaps not as quick, but just as effective, for if this letter you just received is correct, just such a disease has claimed the life of the king. This leaves the principality in the hands of his son, Prince Charles. Prince Charles is 5 years old. Piedmont, it seems, will be requiring the services of a regent for the foreseeable future, and you can think of no better candidate than yourself. Of course, you shall scarcely be alone in seeking the position. The king's cabinet is not a small body, and your fellow ministers will no doubt try all sorts of unseemly tactics in their quest for the throne. Some will try bribery, others will employ treachery, a few may even resort to brute force. But would Primo Varicella stoop to using one of these methods? Perish the thought, you're better than that. You shall employ all three. It will be an uphill struggle, to say the least. Of those to be clamoring for the regency, you are among the lowest in rank. But you are not without a number of advantages. The drama to unfold will play out in the palace, your palace. Time is also on your side. At present, only you and the queen know of the king's demise, and you've known of his illness for a couple of days now, days in which you've hatched a flawless plan. There should be little to stand in the way of your ascent to power, so long as you put your plan into action immediately. Or at least as soon as this manicure is finished. One must have one's priorities. Varicella, written and programmed by Adam Caudry. 31st August, 1999. Salon. You funneled the lion's share of the palace improvements budget, and most likely the tiger's share as well, into renovating the salon. Not that the Philistines you live among are equipped to appreciate it. From the plush quattrodici chairs to the handsome volumes in the library to the important Ming tea service to the steward you hired to attend to your grooming needs, this is an oasis of taste and comfort in what is otherwise a fairly uncomfortable and tasteless building. Ah, well. When you become regent, you'll have greater latitude to redecorate. The arched windows overlook the western gardens, while the exit leads east. The steward shapes the final nail with a pair of scissors. We're going to restore that saved game. Same place. Salon. The steward shapes the final nail with a pair of scissors. Examine steward. This was far and away your most important hire upon your appointment as palace minister, and you agonized over the choice for months. You can countenance the occasional undusted end table or poorly polished piece of silverware, but a less than perfect manicure? Never. Examine the scissors. The scissors are on the small side, yet nonetheless sharp for that. Ask steward about himself. Tell me a bit more about yourself, you say. Me, sir? The steward says. Well, I was born here in Turin and trained at the same... Okay, that's enough, you say. You have no desire to listen to the life story of a commoner. The steward expertly attends to your fingernails with an emery board. Examine that emery board. It is your considered opinion that whoever invented the emery board is the greatest genius in human history. Examine those volumes. This is scarcely the time for leisure reading. Examine the tea service. The tea service is of the finest porcelain and delicately understated, a far cry from the ornate metal affairs one finds in the northern countries. Examine the chairs. Having the salon chairs reupholstered was the first thing you did upon your appointment to the palace ministry. They complement the carpet quite splendidly. Examine that carpet. You are endlessly astounded by how well the carpet complements the rest of the furniture, especially considering that not only is it not part of a matched set, but it came from an entirely different region of the world from the rest. Once you become regent, you'll have to find a way to get back in touch with those Persian traders from whom you purchased it. Steward, jump. Jump, please, you say. The steward performs a short hop for your amusement, without asking you to specify a height. Clearly, a staff in-service day is called for. The steward lightly blows on your fingertips. Steward, give me scissors. Give me your pair of scissors, please, you say. Very well, sir, the steward says, handing them to you. I take it this means the manicure is finished, so I believe I shall take my leave. He does so. Exits. East to the western ballroom is the only exit. Examine east. Nothing of note seems to be transpiring in the western ballroom at the moment. Examine west. The western gardens are in excellent condition. Indeed, at this very moment, the gardener is dutifully tending to them. Examine that gardener. Audrey Manson, formerly a Magdalene at a nunnery outside Dublin. She was transferred for a fortnight to the local convent. Word about her gardening abilities traveled quickly in claustral circles, and you were so dazzled by the instant improvement in its greenery that you had her hired at once. Though many on the staff objected that gardening is unseemly work for a woman, and you're inclined to agree, one cannot argue with results, and the western gardens have been in immaculate condition since her arrival. Look at my inventory. You are carrying some pair of scissors, a letter from the Queen, and your master key. You are wearing a shirt of the finest imported Chinese silk, a doublet of a subtle purple hue, an old-style jerkin with a pleasingly high collar, a fittingly understated pair of black hose, a fashionable pair of paned knee breeches, a black cloak edged with a splendid silver brocade, a pair of stylish custom-made shoes, and a hat that is all the rage in Paris this year. Examine my shirt. You've selected a fine silk shirt with stylish ruffled sleeves and integrated cuffs, unlike the separate cuffs worn by your more gauche contemporaries. Examine my doublet. The more observant might well come to suspect your royal aspirations from the deep purple of your doublet as it peeks out from under your jerkin. Fortunately, no one at the Palazzo del Piemonte is that observant. Examine my jerkin. You have chosen to treat the recent craze for open jerkins with low collars with the disdain merited by such a misguided trend. Examine my hose. Though the preening popinjays may strut about the town square in their brightly colored hose, you have elected to stick with basic black, a wise move on your part. Examine my breeches. Knee breeches. These paned knee breeches are a pleasing charcoal gray color, with the black lining underneath visible between the panes. Examine my cloak. This cloak is of the long French style you prefer, though you must admit that more than once you have been tempted to adopt the Spanish style with those marvelous decorative hoods. If you could find one that weren't so short, you might very well purchase it. Examine my shoes. These shoes are tongued and side-latcheted. Though once dismissed as an affectation, this style is now virtually universal, among the aristocracy at least, and the plebes scarcely count. Examine my hat. Though the fashion has yet to really catch on outside the Gallic principalities, this crowned style of hat is sure to replace the flatter beret-style cap, still common here in the backwaters of the Carolinian League. Never let it be said that Primo Varicella failed to lead the vanguard of style. Remove my hat. It took you an hour and 10 minutes this morning to finish attiring yourself. You are scarcely about to let a fit of pique prompt you to undo all that work. I already looked at the scissors. Examine the letter from the Queen. A page delivered this letter bearing the Queen's seal shortly before 1 o'clock. It reads, "The king is dead, and you have to make sure that nothing bad happens. I told the guards not to tell anyone, but I don't think they're going to listen, and who knows what is going to happen now. You have to make sure that none of the ministers tries anything crazy, because if anything happens to me or to Charles, then I am going to have the guards kill you and your mom too. It is your responsibility." You were quite astonished to receive this letter. You'd been under the impression that the Queen was completely illiterate. Apparently she's been cribbing from the young prince's homework on the sly. Examine my key. The master key to the palace is more than just a key, far more. A flat, rectangular box about the size of a deck of tarot cards. It not only allows you access to any room of the palace simply by its presence on your person, but a little tinkering with the electronics also allowed you to store information in it. All in all, it is a model of simplicity. An LCD screen, a record button, a play button, a write protect button, a slider numbered from 0 to 9, and an input jack. At present, it holds the notes you made while piecing together your master plan. Examine the LCD screen. To view a program, set the slider to the appropriate number and press the play button. Examine the record button. This is a red button set into the master key. When the key is attached to an input cable, pressing the button will save the material in the buffer. Examine the jack. This is a simple circular port into which the input cable can be inserted. Examine the write protect button. This is a blue button set into the master key. Pressing it turns on write protection for the program indicated by the slider, preventing it from being overwritten until you choose to erase it. Examine the play button. This is a green button set into the master key. Pressing it will cause one of 10 programs to play, depending on which number is indicated by the slider. Examine that slider. This is a small arrow-shaped piece of plastic that slides up and down the side on the master key, pointing to the numbers engraved there. It is currently set to 0. Examine the windows behind me. Like the other windows in the palace, these are made of a soundproof, unbreakable treated glass imported from China, mirrored on the outside and polarized on the inside to filter out the glare of the sun. These windows overlook the western gardens. Open the windows. The windows do not open or close. The palace has central heating and cooling. Drink some tea. You've already had your cup of tea today. Any more and you risk triggering your slight allergy to tannins. Press play on my key. A menu appears on the screen. It reads, 1. Dossier on War Minister Klaus Verkeit. 2. Dossier on Coffers Minister Argento Rico. 3. Dossier on Christ Minister Pierre Bonflesh. 4. Dossier on Interior Minister Variola Modo. 5. Dossier on Ambassador to China Marco Puliski. 6. Dossier on Prince Louis. 7. Dossier on Queen Sarah. 8. Dossier on Miss Sierra. 9. Empty. Set slider to 1. Press play. You set the slider to 1. The War Minister's smug, chiseled Aryan face swims up onto the screen. The text reads, "A dangerous opponent. Lack of compunction in eliminating rivals evidenced by almost certain responsibility for murder of Tertio. Has absolute control over army. Will commit all resources to seizing the throne once informed of the king's death, possibly even if informed only of his illness. Weaknesses. Mired in campaign against Venice. Minimum travel time from Venice to Piedmont, 2 hours. Set slider to 2. Press play. The master key calls up the coffers minister's publicity photo. You can practically smell the hair oil through the screen. The text reads, "Virtually unlimited resources make Rico mildly formidable. Chief weakness, lack of killer instinct. Likely to think Regency can be bought for money without blood. Most dangerous throwing in with another rival, providing financial backing. Must be neutralized." Set slider to 3. Press play. A picture of the Christ minister, ursine as ever, blinks onto the screen. The text reads, "Not a threat personally, but definitely one in capacity as representative of the Avignon papacy. Scarcely interested in the Regency, despite current position supervising Prince Charles's education. There will be no Regency once Piedmont becomes just another region of Greater Provence, but rather a governor-cardinal. Imperative to keep that sewer Avignon out of this." Set slider to 4. Press play. The best photo you could find of the interior minister was this blurred video capture. The text reads, the most unpredictable element. Insane. Extent of control over internal security forces, uncertain. Perhaps can be pitted against Verkite, leading to annihilation of both forces. Set slider to 5. Press play. There was no picture of the ambassador to China handy, so the screen displays nothing but text. Rendered a non-factor by distance. Even in this day and age, likelihood of orchestrating successful takeover from Hangzhou is virtually nil. Set slider to 6. Press play. The screen displays a shot of a grinning Prince Louis in sunglasses, holding up a ticket to the recent jousting tournament down at the Stadio del Piemonte. The text reads, "Louis, younger brother of the king, perhaps the most likely candidate to be named regent, purely based on blood ties, could conceivably be used as figurehead by Rico, but is otherwise of negligible importance in any potential power struggle. Likely to be eliminated by Modo, or, failing that, Verkite." Set slider to 7. Apologies, the autocomplete sometimes messes up my numbers. Try that again. Set slider to 7. Press play. The official portrait of Queen Sarah pops onto the screen. The text reads, "Sarah, Queen of Piedmont, will name the regent shortly after the king's death, assuming she survives. Her death would plunge country into chaos, almost certain to be followed by military dictatorship under Verkite, or annexation by a rival principality. As maintenance of power structure is a necessary precondition to assumption of power, the queen's security is of the highest priority." Set slider to 8. Press play. Miss Sierra's piercing stare makes you vaguely uncomfortable as you read the text. Miss Sierra, official mistress of the king, an X-Factor, could disappear, could attempt to assassinate the queen, could throw in with one of the stronger claimants to the regency. Goals, unclear. Set slider to 9. Press play. The word empty appears on the screen. Examine the ceiling. You've had the ceiling painted over in a neutral beige. With any luck, you will eventually forget the fresco of Charlemagne watching television that used to loom overhead back when this room was a rec center. Jump. You jump on the spot, achieving nothing. How unseemly. Pray. You're the palace minister, not the Christ minister. Sleep. This is scarcely the time. Think. You've already come up with your master plan. Now is the time to put it into action. Go east. The clock begins 1:02 p.m. Western Ballroom.